Hi everybody, welcome. Hope you've had a lovely Sunday so far. Now, as you all know, it's time for Sydney Social Live, episode 12, How Time Has Flown. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, what is Sydney Social Live? Well, it's a one-of-its-kind, thought-provoking talk show where we put the spotlight on harsh, hidden realities of modern-day social circles. Why do I say hidden? Because while a lot of people are struggling with these issues, not many people are talking about them, except us here at Sydney Social Live. What is the purpose of the show? The purpose of the show is to spark important conversations, promote positivity, and foster a community that is non-judgmental and accepting. Now, as you all know, each week I have a special guest who comes in, and you've all been waiting for this one. So today we have Taufeeq Ahmed Sheikh.
Thank you, Nim, for having me over. I am so glad that I could make it to the list.
Yes.
It almost feels like Karan Johar thing, the coffee. Like, I'm finally invited.
You're too kind. Are you as excited as I am?
I have to, we will know that in the process of the conversation because I'm certainly excited. I'll come to that conclusion later maybe.
Now, do you know a lot of people have been waiting for this because you are known for being an articulate person.
Oh wow, okay.
You are known
Pressure?
to be a well-spoken, no pressure, all is well. So hopefully everyone can hear us. If the audio is not clear, now is the time to let us know because we do not want you to miss a single word that this young man is going to say today, right?
I'm sold on young.
And don't forget to say your hi. So say hi Taufeeq, hi Nim, let us know where you're logging in from, which part of the world, because I know not just the Sydney siders, people from all over are tuning in, which is very, very exciting. Now, before we begin, not that Taufeeq needs any introduction, but let's read out a little bit about him in case you don't know, on the very small chance that you don't know about him, okay? So Taufeeq Ahmed Sheikh is an acclaimed actor, an award-winning writer, filmmaker, radio presenter, and community representative for South Asian diaspora in Australia. He is also a corporate finance consultant by day and a think tank dedicated to social cohesion and equity. As the founder and curator of Crossover Stories, Taufeeq empowers people from all walks of life to find their voice through writing, performing, and speaking. He is a sought-after speaker and thought leader. Taufeeq is currently working on a double role, nothing less, in William Shakespeare's As You Like It, and he has also appeared in productions of Othello, Much Ado About Nothing, Hamlet, The Drowsy Chaperone, and The Female of the Species, Vikram Kapadia's Black with Equal, Mahesh Dattani's Where Did I Leave My Parda? Wow. He is a recipient of numerous awards for his work in acting, public speaking, literature, broadcasting, direction, and interfaith harmony. My goodness, what an amazing journey, right?
It has been, yes.
And you wear several hats, as we all realize now.
The hats come to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't seek them. It's sometimes where it's right there and it's too hard to ignore to take up that responsibility. So.
Fair enough. Now, like I always say, we all know a lot about our guests, but there are aspects of their journey that everyone may not know about. So, take us for a short walk through your childhood years. Tell us a little bit about how the journey started.
Sure. The audiences who actually are aware of this film, I will not name the film, but the dialogue is iconic. Phata poster nikla hero. And that dialogue was said by the legendary Nasiruddin Shah. The moment probably I was 4 or 5 years old, or maybe even less, I saw that thing on the screen and I was like, I knew what I wanted to be in life.
Wow.
And after that, as and when life moved forward, at the age of 9, I got my first break in television.
9?
Yes, and it moved on to, at the age of 13, I was doing a show for Doordarshan as well. 11th was where I got my chance for the first theatre show as an actor. It was a 5-minute role right at the end of the play, and right after that was followed by applause. Now, I cheated myself to believe that those applause were only for me, and there were 1,400 people in that auditorium.
Wow.
It was a no-brainer for me that this is what I'm going to do in life. In the very next in a couple of years, I got my first direction opportunity as a 17-year-old, being a director in the same auditorium where I stood for 5 minutes as an actor 2 years back.
Wow.
I thought this is it.
Yeah.
But then that's when the life came in the way. And for the next 15 years, I did nothing.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a sabbatical.
Yeah.
And 2018, life took such turns that I was kind of forced into getting performing arts as my only way out to and my only realm where I could find some sanity and some purpose. And whatever you've spoken about today, thank you, has all been that 5 years.
Wow. So I have a feeling, because I've seen you perform, that the applause you heard was a huge chunk of it was for you.
I cheated myself to think that, because I mean, that character did not even have a name. The play was Taufeeq Singh, and Sadat Hasan Manto's play, and one of his iconic plays, Taufeeq Singh, is the character that I was playing was not in the play, but my seniors were very kind enough to kind of create a character so that I could just stand on stage there, because the original character that was given to me was a replacement for an original actor who had to back out because of a fracture.
Right.
So that character was not even supposed to be in the play, but yeah, that's how actors.
Is that right?
But I mean, that's the kind of realm actors live in, because we have to create our own realities and be sure that that's the way we want to live. It's a scary, lonely place, but we just find more crazy people like us, and then we call it an industry.
Love it. Now let's say our audience, people in the audience, there are some of them who would like to follow in your footsteps, like to do the kind of work you're doing, let's say in the acting space or direction or whatever. What are some nuggets of wisdom you can share with them? What are some pieces of advice you could offer them?
I'm certainly not in that position to advise anyone, but what I have observed in my life is I have been a reflection of my teachers. I have learned from my teachers in school, in colleges, and they've still been friends. We've actually gone trekking together as well. One of my professors is my trekking partner as well. The one thing that I took from them was always be in a position to inspire. It helps you twofolds. It helps you to first make a difference to the world that you're living in, and it also forces you to stay inspired.
Love it, love it. That is actually very deep. So always be in a position to inspire.
And yeah, endeavor to be in one, and that way at least you'll always be in that phase. Yes.
Fabulous, wise words indeed. All right, so Taufeeq, are we ready? We've got some very chatpata topics as always, which...
Fair enough. Well, your introduction was a bit worrying, because when it says for actors who live in their old world of lies, to be very truthful is a scary way. We don't do it directly, we do it through the medium of characters and scripts. So as a person today to do that is...
It's exciting. Yes, so we've got some chatpata topics lined up. Everyone's come to expect that from Sydney Social Live, so we can't disappoint them.
Well.
And where are all our highs and hellos? No shy people allowed. Please put in a comment or two. Taufeeq would love to have questions. We will try and address those during the live. If not, then afterwards one of us promises to respond. Having said that, we've got Samay Jain saying, hello Taufeeq bhai, good to see you at Sydney Social Live.
Oh, thank you Samay bhai, and I've seen him actually enjoying our Kehte Sunte live as well on Thursdays. So it's good to see that there is Samay for Samay to spend some Samay with us.
Poet as well. Tell us about the Kehte Sunte podcast, is it?
Yes, so Kehte Sunte is 89.3 2GL FM. We do Manveer Singh Kohli and myself. He was actually the first person who identified that I could talk on a mic. And then he pretty much created that identity for me, which I am gladly and very humbly trying to carry forward. So 89.3 FM was my journey start. We used to do it on a different frequency, but we still call ourselves Kehte Sunte.
Nice.
And Kehte Sunte radio it is.
There you go.
That's a part of my identity.
Something to look out for. All right, so let's begin with our first question. Back in the old days, when things were very different and the world hadn't changed as much as it has today, when it came to the question of watching a movie or a performance, typically there was the tussle between should we go to the cinemas and watch a movie on the big screen, or should we go to a theater to watch a play? Now the decision has been made even more complicated with streaming having entered into the arena. Is theatre, our plays, getting the love, the attention? Is theatre getting the love and attention it deserves?
It reminds me of a conference that I attended where the CEO or managing director of Microsoft was actually addressing that. This was back in 2016-18. They said that the three big industries that are going to survive in this new age of digital technology that we're living in is going to be big data, cybersecurity, and storytelling.
Okay.
Coming in a forum of Microsoft, that was like very, very reassuring that I will survive here. And when you actually look at the current world that we live in, it's all about disrupting. Like crypto is disrupting conventional currency. Work from home is disrupting the normal 9-to-5 lives. Similarly, I believe streaming has disrupted the way we tell stories.
And consume them as well.
And consume them as well, yes. The industry of storytelling is directly driven by the consumer, and it has to be immediately reactive to it, because if you're not reactive to what the consumer wants, you'll be very soon not relevant to that entire realm of storytelling. What streaming essentially does is, the downside of it is that it loads the customer with immense information, which I beg your pardon, but I try to call it content garbage. Right? It's a lot of information for an innocent human brain to consume on a daily basis. But at the same time, as storytellers, it helps us weed out the not so good stories, because there is no more space to call a parallel cinema or alternate storytelling
Art cinema.
and art cinema. I mean, it's like that elitism that we had in the garb of which we were just shelling out bullshit. That is now become no more a possibility, because now the amount of entertainment options that you have to consume, it is hard to survive with just calling yourself and rebranding yourself and trying to do the same thing over and over again. You have to be relevant, you have to be new, you have to be crisp, you have to be relatable. I remember Javed Akhtar Saab saying in one of the Rekta platforms that he was on, is that unless and until today I don't cry, I don't drop a tear while I'm writing what I'm writing, that small young guy in that B town who's watching my stories will not cry.
So true.
And that is the connection of that's also the power of storytelling, that you have to be emotionally honest irrespective of the medium. You have to be a medium agnostic, you have to be a language agnostic to understand what the power of storytelling is. And we tell stories on a daily basis. We tell ourselves a story that we have to wear a costume to go to office. We have to tell ourselves a story that we have to behave in a certain way with a certain person. So yes, I am for one very, very thankful to streaming platforms. Firstly, it has given immense opportunities for artists as compared to whatever was existing before. It has also made the competition very tough for good storytellers to survive, and it has just opened up avenues where Anurag Kashyap says, just if you want to make a film, pick up your phone and make one.
Has it also created opportunities for actors who normally would not have necessarily got the break if it was just like they were dependent on getting into a movie? Or?
Yes, it's the same as the critique that you would give to streaming is the same that the cricket lovers would give to IPL, right? It has its pros and cons. It will welcome more people than are required in the storytelling. But then we are 8 billion people. We have 8 billion stories. And it's your guess is as good as mine. Whose 8 billion stories? Which one stands out? But the onus is on us that we have to tell our stories.
Yes, no, absolutely. Tell us about specifically about plays. Are there enough people going to plays? What would you like to tell our audience watching?
Well, the one thing that is great that has happened with the screen pandemic, if I may say it that way.
Oh, I like that.
Pandemic. And this is, of course, coming after the pandemic that we've all gone through, right? When the lockdowns open up, right? As theatre actors, we were worried that no one's going to come and watch us, because entertainment is available on screens. They don't even have to go to theatre for that matter. But the world has shown how important the human connection is to storytelling, where we are now seeing theatres full back to back. As compared to cinemas, which you can go and watch any film at any time, unless and until it's something like an Oppenheimer or a Barbie, which is flooded with the amount of budget of marketing that they have, that they almost persuade you, or if I may say, force you subliminally to go and watch that film. Theatre, on the other hand, has no marketing budget. It hardly has money to pay its actors, but the quality of storytelling that theatre offers, even if it's a musical, even if it's a live performance in general, or a drama or a theatre play, it does beg for that human connection, and that's what makes it survive.
Look, I'm a huge fan of going to the theatre and watching plays, and I've watched you perform, and it's phenomenal. What would you like to tell our audience when it comes to inviting them in for that experience of what would we say to encourage more people to come?
I remember one of these instances one of my directors shared, and it was just a casual banter, no preaching going on there. Mark Nagel is his name. He was directing me in A Passage to India for Genesian Theatre. And he's like, I don't know why this happens, but when you go and watch a film in a theatre, right, you lean back, you relax, and you watch the screen do its magic. But when you're in a theatre, you lean forward, you hold your chin tight, and you immerse yourself in that story. That's the difference between theatre and cinema, which has made it almost a religious practice for me to be a part of it, because of the instant gratification or the instant critique that you as audience give us. It also gives us the opportunity to be right up front and close with you. The current plays that we are doing, we would be actually surrounded by our audience rather than being facing our audience. So there is this classic rule in theatre: don't show your back to the theatre, to your audience, I beg your pardon. But yeah, when you have a circular audience, what are you going to do? You're exposed 360 degrees. As scary as it may sound, as actors it is a liberating moment. And as an audience, the immersive experience that you have, that you're able to see every story from every possible angle, because that's how we are trained to tell that story. It is an experience that you will always, always love.
Yeah, love it. So I want to put a question out there to our lovely audience. How many of you are theatre lovers? How many of you love going and watching plays like I do, like Taufeeq does? And tell us about a play you recently went and watched. So here we are encouraging all of you to go, and if you haven't watched Taufeeq on the stage, you haven't lived, right? You haven't lived. So please make sure that that's on your to-watch list in the upcoming months. At the end of the show, we'll get Taufeeq to tell you about his upcoming projects anyway. But moving on to the next question. In this whole world of arts and culture, right, there is this whole importance at the moment of integrating into mainstream society. In that process, in that attempt, there has come in a new danger, which is that of possibly losing touch with one's own roots and one's own culture while we are attempting to get in with mainstream society. I know you've got some very interesting insights on that. What would you like to say?
It reminds me of that proverb that we have grown up with, "Kawa chala hans ki chal aur apni chal bhul gaya."
If you want to translate.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can be another person, because on a daily basis you are pretending to put one act or the other, which is fine. That's the way we live lives. But it's all about knowing where you come from. It's not all about knowing where your roots belong. And it's not so much about the nationalism of it, or the patriotism of it, or the inclination that you have to hold on to your identity. It's not that. It's about not letting your range diminish. Because if you're grounded to your root and you keep moving forward, imagine in the diagram of identity or the spectrum, how stretched or how vast your identity spectrum can be. But if you start demonizing your previous identity in lieu of looking at the next identity that you want to take over, and a classic example for that is the moment you go back to India as an Indian, it's like, oh, it's so smelly, oh, the traffic, oh, this, oh, that.
Oh, the noise.
Oh my goodness, the noise. Oh, it's so polluted. And we wouldn't blink an eye before going to a hookah bar and spending the evening there, and you having shishas out there. You wouldn't blink an eye for going to a sweaty concert and just headbanging the whole time as youngsters. But you would make a judgment on your roots. It is always imperative and an onus onto us that within as a diaspora, we live multiple identities.
Yes.
Even in the generation that we are going to move forward to, we are going to bring up in Australia, the second generation diaspora, or the migrants for that matter, they will be living up with dual identities.
True.
And I have seen more often than not that the parents would almost enforce the original identity. And that, I feel, is a scary part, because what you're essentially doing is you're giving a contradictory information to what your child is learning outside the world, outside the house. There is always a way of balance. It's like you could be hating your boss and working in the same company for years.
Yeah.
Why? But your boss will never know about it
Yeah.
because you still have a job. That's the proof of it. Why can't we do that with the children? Why cannot we let them embrace that new identity without having to enforce it? There is this concept in our South Asian culture where we say Atithi Devo Bhava, guest is God.
Yeah.
Right? When guest is God, what you're doing is you're kind of inviting that guest into your house and giving that regard. You can't be holding your guest by the collar and telling, come and eat food in my house because I want you to be treated as God.
Yes.
That does not sit well.
Absolutely.
So at the same time, you wouldn't want to kind of stronghold or strangle your kids into saying, this is your identity, you have to adopt it, or else you're not a good son or a good child for that matter.
Yeah.
And that's something which we have to be very mindful of as diaspora per se, because the first thing, you could be someone who says, oh yeah, my parents are Indians but I'm an Australian, or you could be someone like Sam Kerr who would be like saying, my nonna would be proud.
Yes.
So these are the things, that's the difference in way I see that as and when we are moving forward, the amount of information that we are being loaded with these days, we have to be fairly mindful of what sort of information we absorb and what we actually pass on to the generations and the society that we live in.
Fabulous. That actually brings to mind I've got 3 kids and they're all born in Australia and raised in Australia, and even as they were toddlers, we used to teach them and say, who are you? And we would get them to say, I am Australian of Indian heritage.
Lovely.
And that's how they're grown. So today if you ask them, who are you or what are you? That's what they say. I'm Australian, which they are because they're born here.
Absolutely.
Of Indian heritage because that's their roots.
Absolutely.
Right? And that sort of, collates with what you have just said about
Absolutely.
embracing both identities.
And the example that you've given me actually brought a visual when I was at an India-Australia one-day match at Sydney Cricket Ground. There was this father who was wearing blue and his son was actually in his arms wearing the Australian gold and green. And that visual just stayed because they were so immensely enjoying that entire experience where they're both dissing each other. and that was a battle in themselves and one of the cutest battles that I've ever seen. And I was privy to that entire thing because it was happening right in front of me. So there were 2 matches going on. There was Indian-Australia on the green and then there was Indian-Australia happening in the stands.
Oh, cute.
And such a lovely sight to behold and remember. I'm glad that I still remember that. Thanks for bringing that memory back.
Because that's what happens in our household as well. When cricket is on, that's when it's, dad and mom are cheering India and then the kids are cheering Australia as it should.
I actually say that to my Pakistani friends actually from here, is that whenever India-Pakistan is having a match, if you're really true friends and you claim to be, Indians and Pakistanis can be friends, well, let's watch a match together and then talk later. So yeah, glad I still have Pakistani friends and we've had a couple of matches recently.
That's awesome. Having said that, a lot of your well-wishers are here sending you some messages. So Suman Mathur says, love watching plays and love the person you are interviewing today, Nim Gholkar.
She is such a motherly figure, I must say. And to everyone who is into arts and theatre, will come across Suman Mathur one way or the other, just because of the lovely motherhood. Just she spreads it around like, you take my motherhood, you take mine, you take it.
No,
and I've been at the receiving end of it. So thank you. Thank you so much.
That's sweet. Let's go have a look at some others. There is, Neeru says, absolutely agree, theatre has its own charm and it's an immersive experience, so well explained. I think it's the hardest platform for actors as there are no retakes.
But there's a lot of rehearsals though, I must say. But Neeru, coming from you, it actually is a delight to hear because you have been an avid filmic, if I may say that way. You're a film mystic. You've been in conversation with so many brilliant artist from the screen. And coming from you, it just does actually reassure the work that we're doing is somewhat validated from screen appreciators. So thank you, Neeru, for that lovely compliment.
Fabulous. And Rushali Jain is saying hi to you as well.
Hello, Rushali Jain. I believe, Rushali and I had this recent conversation on SBS where we were giving the farewell to our beloved CGI, Council General of India, Mr. Manish Gupta, and even his, for that matter, his patronage towards art and along with his wife has been so great. That has been a huge boost to the South Asian community to kind of go out there and perform, because sometimes it's like, oh, why are we doing it? Why are we spending 6 months for one day of a show? And then you just tell them, oh, well, the Council General is going to be going. Oh, okay, fine, let's do it. So sometimes that even acts as a motivation. So thank you for having that conversation and inviting me over, Rishali, on SBS Hindi.
Awesome.
It was a lovely experience.
And Mamta Koti Shira said also says hi.
Oh wow, she's got a nightingale in her throat.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Such a brilliant singer she is.
She is. All right, so
I'm getting a lot of validation from great people today. Thank you, and thank you for collecting all those loyal listeners and viewers.
And if there are any that we haven't sort of said hi to, forgive us. In the interest of time, I'm just going to the next question, but we promise to say hi back to you as soon as we can. Coming to our last question for the evening. We've talked a lot about these two very important areas, right? First about theatre versus cinema, and then all about diversity, and then mainstream society, holding on to our roots, all of that. You've been a staunch advocate of promoting arts and culture.
Sure. Try to.
Tell us about some bloopers, some faux pas, some ouch moments, if there have been any.
Well, as I was driving here, I was speaking to one of my co-actors, Manny, of the scary things that actually go on in Shakespeare. Because it's the first time she's doing Shakespeare, and I've been almost desensitized to Shakespeare, if I must say. I hope my director's not watching this, he's going to kill me. But there was this one incident where I was playing Othello as Othello in Othello. A huge pressure on my shoulder as a brown actor playing in a predominantly white country to do Othello. And I remember the last scene of one of the shows that we were doing in Scotland Island. So Scotland Island is an island out of nowhere. It's right in the middle, close to Mona Vale, and we have to take a boat to go there, perform in a garden out in the open, and then just come back in the boat, and that's it. In the very last scene that I was in, I mean, how do you say this? I actually had a muscle cramp.
Ouch.
So luckily it was not my hamstring, but it was very close to that. Now the whole idea is that you can't break character. And because there are no retakes, as Neeru said, and sometimes the rehearsals don't matter as well. But the so happened is that when the audience came back to me and saying, "Oh, that pain in your eyes to kill your wife! I haven't seen any actor so honest with the pain that you would have to come to that." And I was like, it was an honest pain. It was an honest pain, and it was nothing to do with Desdemona, for that matter. And these are things. I mean, I remember early on one of my days as well. I was having this play, and I forgot my lines.
Oh,
happens.
Biggest nightmare.
It happens. And this was early on. I was probably 16, 17, and that was enough for me to kind of say, I can never do this. First of all, I was performing in front of a very unforgiving crowd, because it's a 1400 space auditorium full of students from AMU. Right, so it's a university auditorium, 1400 people. It's the stage where Nasiruddin Shah himself has said is one of the toughest stages to perform on, because we don't watch plays, we rip them apart when we are in
to
audience.
Pieces,
yes. So whenever you're doing the worst performance of your life, you'll actually get the biggest applauses, because that's how they say how bad you are. And you feel even bad as an actor. It's like, I'm doing so bad and everyone's applauding. And I forgot my lines in there. And I literally started like sobbing there, saying that, oh, I'm losing this play.
Oh.
And so my playing father had this presence of mind to come and console me at that point, because he could as a father.
Right.
He couldn't as an actor. He couldn't do it as my senior actor, but he could do it as a father. He had that presence of mind. He came in, and I just started crying there, saying, I forgot my lines. And he's very silently saying, only you know it. No one else know it. Just continue with your play. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. And then he gave me the next cue, and then we just moved forward. These are the things we keep doing. There were times recently when I was doing a film which was No Time to Love. I was working with Suraj, director from Malayalam. He comes from a Malayalam background. My co-actor comes from a Hindi belt from Lucknow. Then there was another actor of ours who said she could speak very well Malayalam, but turns out to be she could speak better Tamil than Malayalam, and that was kind of overlapping. So we were working in this environment where the director cannot speak Hindi properly. The only other person who can speak Hindi cannot speak Malayalam. And then we had, funny enough, just English as the only language, which is ironically the way the whole country in India speaks. We are one of the largest speaking English countries in the world. Yeah. Thanks to our colonial hangovers, we're still doing that. In this entire setup, we were just looking at how do we communicate with each other. And that's when the funny part of emotions came into being, and as much as it is funny for me in my head, it is also cathartic to understand how unimportant words are, as Hans Kafka says, that words are more of a misinterpretation or a distraction. If you really have to communicate, words are just incidental. So we were just talking expressions, we were just talking gestures, and we ended up completing the whole film pretty much that way. And every time we kind of fell short of expressions in English, because English has its limitations of the way we as Indians do express our emotions. We've got a plethora of emotions. They probably are working on still 7 colors of the rainbow. They're like, well, we've got 7 colors of every 7 colors of the rainbow. so that's how we do it. And it was just funny to see that this is how even a film can be made, as much as it was funny in the sense that we couldn't communicate with each other.
That is so awesome. You still created magic, so that was good.
It did. And thanks to everyone who's actually watching as well, they've been a part of the voting part of it as well. It actually made it, it was my first official selection to Indian Film Festival of Melbourne. It also won an honorable mention for the best short film for Indian Independent Film Festival in India.
That deserves a high five. Fabulous.
And I'll take that high five on for the entire team.
Absolutely.
End of the day, it was the vision. Film is a director's medium. So if you ever want to watch a good film and then come out and praise actors, hold on to that thought and just think about how the director made it happen. Actors are pretty much mannequins so someone's putting the clothes on, someone's putting the makeup on, someone's putting the words in our mouth, someone's making us look good through the lights, someone's making us sound good through the sound. So we pretty much, very dependent creatures as actors.
Fabulous. So now that brings us to rapid fire. Ooh. Are we ready?
Lock and load, baby. Where's my hamper? I'm on this coffee with Karan thing. I should have a hamper.
Oh, can I just have like a pretend one?
All right, I'll take the cup home. Grandmaster, go. Aaya hu to kuch leke jaunga. I'm going to take something home at least. I'm taking this cup if I want.
You have the goodwill and the good wishes of everybody, right?
Oh, yes.
What more can we ask for?
Absolutely.
Acha, so are you a morning person or a night owl?
Definitely not a morning person. Night owl, definitely, yes.
So what time do you really come awake in the day?
I don't come awake in the day. I pretend to stay. I just pretend to keep my eyes open in the day. And I hope my corporate job people are not listening to this. It's like, okay, whatever are we paying you for if you're just pretending to stay?
They're just impressed that despite not being awake, you're achieving so much. They want to know the secrets. They want to know the secrets.
Yeah, okay. I act my way out of it.
Chai or coffee?
Chai, definitely. It's an emotion.
Oh, I've never heard that before. It's an emotion.
It is not a drink. And anyone who drinks chai for the fact that it's a hot drink, stop doing that. Start drinking coffee, because chai is an emotion. I come from
chai is an emotion.
Yeah,
I like that.
I come from 2 cities which pretty much survive on chai. My education was from Aligarh AMU. And then my graduation continued from Gujarat in Ahmedabad in specific. These 2 cities survive on chai. They can probably survive probably a pandemic. They can survive any hostility, but they can't survive without chai, is what my personal opinion is.
Manisha Bilani is also saying hi, and that she agrees it is a lot of rehearsal that takes place
Yes.
in.
Manisha being an actor herself, she's been through, and that reminds me actually, my co-actor Manny and Manisha have actually been in the same play, and I'm sure they've had a good experience with crossover stories that time.
Fabulous, fabulous. All right, one last rapid fire question. Hamlet or Othello?
Othello, definitely, because the first time leading a Shakespeare play the pressure was on, and right till the day the show opened, I was walking into the stage rather, thinking, who am I going to disappoint today? Because leading a play was something which was way too much of a responsibility. If my co-actors had to shine, I had to make sure that the play carried forward till the end. And if only I can manage to do that, that would have been enough. Hamlet has its own special place in my heart because that was my debut play.
To be or not to be?
To be or not to be. I had to do multiple roles in that one as well, but luckily they were very small lines. Somehow I hacked my way through it. And I remember one of the questions that my cast was asking us, like, oh, and this was early days when I was actually getting into theatre as well, 4.5 years back. He was like, why do you do theatre? I was like, well, just to stay out of jail. And then, like, what does that mean? I was like, well, if I don't do theatre, I'll just go insane and end up doing something crazy. So no, it is not like my community service to stay out of a jail term. That's not the case. But it's more to just keep my head in place. Yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, lastly, tell us about your favorite cuisine. What's your go-to cuisine?
I'd sound so pretentious if I say anything apart from Indian. I am, for those who do not know, I am a graduate of hospitality management. So I've done my hotel management. So that's the only degree I have to cook food and serve food, and probably to make rooms and manage rooms. And that's my only qualification. Everything else is just an acquired taste. So in that journey, I realized that in the different states that I've lived in, starting from Maharashtra, growing up in Mumbai, you are bombarded with a plethora of flavors. Then you go into Uttar Pradesh and it's a different palette. It's like even the most unresourceful family dines like a king, because that's the staple diet there. At the same time, you've got Gujarat, which is just a cacophony of flavors. And as people may have a certain opinion about Gujarati food, if you actually are in Gujarat, it is actually one of the most diverse cuisines you can come across. So for me, in every state and every city that I have had the opportunity to live in India, I've seen as and when we moved forward, the dialect has changed and even the palate has changed.
True.
So I'm yet to explore enough about Indian cuisine as well. So I have to say that it is still a love in the making, and I'd like to stay loyal to my Indian food.
Love it. And any favorite restaurant or anything that you like to go to?
I have favorite dishes in different restaurants, so which might end up becoming a bit a bit of an unfair comparison. But the one thing I do like about is the Indian food truck culture. Yes, it is coming up, guys. You need to go and try food from that. It is the next best thing to having from a kiosk, or as we like to call it, from the tailors.
And are these everywhere?
Almost everywhere, at least everywhere I go, probably because I'm a foodie. I've seen it in Blacktown, I've seen it in around the Parramatta area, the North Parramatta area, the Kellyville, Bella Vista area as well. I've seen and that there are food trucks popping up.
Nice.
In Blacktown especially, there's a whole precinct close to Officeworks where there's a line of food trucks. They are always there, which is the closest accessible to me.
And is it mainly street food or just everything?
It's actually good food. I mean, like even Harris Park for that matter.
Yeah.
Because there are not enough houses left to be converted into restaurants anymore.
Little India now.
So yeah, Sanjay Bhai is doing a good job in converting the whole place from Harris Park to Harish Bhai Park. So we'll soon be reincarnated that way. But there is a food truck there as well. If you just go on the other side of Vigram Street from the roundabout, you'll find on the right side there's a Gujarati food truck there. Then there is faludas and ice creams that are happening in Blacktown.
Oh my goodness.
There is dosas on the wheels happening. So yeah, but I wouldn't embrace one restaurant, but this is an Indian food culture that is coming up. And
Absolutely.
as much as I have been a street food lover all my life, the food trucks are the closest best thing to it.
Well, that's high praise indeed. So next time you're thinking, where do I go for Friday night dinner? You know, it's one of the Indian food trucks like Taufeeq has recommended. So before we wrap up, do you want to tell our audience about any of your upcoming projects or plays? What's coming up?
No, I'd love to talk about, well, I've been talking about Shakespeare all this while. So I'm not a Shakespeare actor. I just happen to do one of those plays. So I love to do all plays and films possible. I've got a few films that are already going on. If you go onto YouTube on Temper Film Creators, there are a few films that I've done. I've done it with Chocolate Brother Productions as well, which is No Time to Love. Please go and watch that film. That's available right after this interview. You can go and start watching if you're still wanting more of this on the screen. But if you are into live theatre, when we do Shakespeare, we do it very differently. The mission that my director Paul Kinnan-Month is on is to make Shakespeare accessible again. It does not want it to be restricted to the elitist community which goes in tuxedos and dresses and goes and watches plays. We do plays out in the open, like we've got the Nukkad Natak or the street play tradition in India. This is very similar to what originally Shakespeare was. It would be a cart wheel going round town by town and on the corner of the streets to the shows. That's how Shakespeare started, and he's wanting to bring that back. So when we do Shakespeare, we ask you to come with your children. We ask you to come with picnic mats and chairs, get your beers along, and sit wherever you like, because the play will happen around you. Right. This time what we're doing is As You Like It. We open in December. We will start from Varunga, which is Practical School of Philosophy, is also called as Friends of Maratha, Fox Valley Road. From there we'll be moving on to Monavale, Avalon, I beg your pardon. Avalon Sailing Club has actually invited us to do the play as a part of their Avalon Festival. We go back to Scotland Island, which is close to Avalon, but you'll have to take a boat for it. Many of my friends actually come just for the boat ride, even they know that I'm like, yeah, maybe we'll just be disappointed at the play, but the boat ride is amazing. So that's always one of the kickers there to look forward to it. And if you've missed all of this, you can come and follow us to Dubbo. We'll be going to Dubbo. Last year we were in Byron Bay doing Othello. This time we'll be heading to Dubbo and doing a couple of shows there. So it's going to be a traveling troupe, that what we call it, coming from Such Stuff Productions, opening in December, going all the way until end of February.
Love it. So free up some space in your busy diaries, my friends. You will not regret it. Thank you so much, Taufeeq, for coming and joining me here on Sydney Social Life. It has been an absolute pleasure. I could listen to you forever. It has been great.
Thank you so much, Nim, and I really, really appreciate that you could find. I mean, you've been doing some great work around in the walking and the talking space and walking the talk space. So thank you, and it is an honor to be in conversation with you. I really hope that you continue doing the brilliant work that you're doing and call some good speakers as well. I'll be keen to join in.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. As always, thank you for sharing a slice of your Sunday with us. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I'll see you next week. Bye. See ya.